Can I ask a question?
Who is this?
Ambika.
You didn't raise your hand. Your electronic hand. I can't see you. I have so many screens open. I have to have your electronic hand, but now I can hear you. So go ahead
Ah, okay.
and I'll get you open. Okay, there you are. Hello,
Uh,
Ambika.
mm, I know this is a very common question, but it's arising. So, why do I get identified? Or better way of putting it, why do I still get identified?
Why do I still get identified? Yeah. Vasanas, mm, the conditioning, the tendencies that we come into this life with, referred to as prarabdha karma. When we come into this life, we come in with a certain sack full of tendencies in order to help us to understand who we are. But along with that, with those tendencies comes a certain momentum. And we can never know where that momentum comes from. We don't know whether that momentum comes from our early childhood. We don't know whether it possibly comes from another lifetime, if that's your belief system. We don't know why this conditioning continues to return over and over. But if we see the vasanas for what they are in a certain way, in terms of our sadhana, what we understand is they are creating for us an opportunity. And that opportunity is to see through them in a way, or penetrate through them. This is the foundation of the question, who am I, or what is aware here, is that we're always trying to go to the source of being so that whatever is appearing on the screen of awareness doesn't become a trap for us. In other words, we don't continue to identify with it. So mm, up until we come into contact with this way of using the vasanas or using the tendencies, not to look at the behavior itself, the thoughts themselves, the conditioning itself, but rather to ask that question, who is aware of this? What is aware of this? Who am I? This, when we reach the point in our maturity that we are led to this teaching, we are led there because we are ready. The vasana has a certain momentum, the tendency to identify repeatedly with that tendency or with that conditioning. That tendency is there and it has a certain momentum. So I just encourage you not to uh, be overly concerned with the fact that a particular vasana or a set of vasanas tends to repeat itself in your life or tends to come up again over and over or tends to run like a tape over and over and you don't seem to know how to switch it off. The way to switch it off is to just keep asking what is aware of this. And this brings us to that moment that I was speaking about before, where when something rises on the screen of awareness, the act of liberation for that vasana is to see it, react minimally or not at all, and let it go without identifying. Now you said, why do I identify with it over and over? If you pursue that question, these kinds of questions the Buddha called the imponderables. And the reason he called them the imponderables was because he said, you can look for an eternity And you will find what came before and what came before and what came before and what came before and what came before. And none of it will be true because it will all be a story in the mind. So he said, better just to swat those things aside. They are imponderables. Don't take the time. Know that you are being consciousness and bliss. He didn't say this. Ramana said this, and Advaita says this. Know that you are being consciousness and bliss. And that what happens when you, even when you take up a moment where you realize, oh, I'm identified again with this behavior, or I'm identified again with this habit, or this way of thinking, or this way of reacting. As soon as you know that, you actually have the opportunity at that moment to know that you are not that, that you are that which is aware that the vasana is there. It's here now. I've seen it, but I'm not it. And in doing this, we undercut, we chop little by little by little at this way in which we identify with conditioning. And even a large tree with a deep root eventually falls when there's a small chop, chop, chop. And the key to that chop, chop, chop is persistence. This is why we keep saying, who is aware of this? Not what am I aware of and why, but who? Because the question who directly attacks or chops at this root of belief in a separate identity. And even though it can be frustrating at times that this goes on for such a long period of time, remember that every tree eventually falls, and continue and persist.
The last one gives me some hope.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Thank
Yes. Welcome. Welcome.